John's fingers trembled as he traced the embossed symbol on the envelope. A symbol he'd last seen carved into his childhood bedroom wall the night his sister vanished. The paper itself felt wrong. Too thick, too cold, like it had been stored in a tomb. A faint scent of damp earth and ozone seeped from the sealed flap, a smell that didn't belong in his sunlit kitchen. When he finally tore it open, the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick, expectant, like the moment before a storm breaks. Inside was a single, aged photograph of his sister, smiling, taken years after she was declared dead. Scrawled on the back in a handwriting that mimicked his own were just 5 words. "She's waiting where you left her." The air in the room grew heavy and still, as if all sound had been sucked into the image itself. And that's when he heard it. The soft, wet sound of a single drop hitting the floor, though nothing above him could have caused it. John's gaze locks onto the camera. His smile vanished. His voice drops to a trembling whisper. "The most exquisite love letter I've ever read wasn't from my wife. It was signed by a ghost, and it described, with perfect, horrifying precision, how she killed someone 17 years ago." A low, thumping heartbeat sound begins to pulse through the silence as he continues. "I held proof of a murder in my hands, and proof that the woman I shared a bed with for 8 years was a complete stranger." A wedding photo snaps in half, a woman laughing, her face glitching with static. A police evidence photo of a muddy riverbank. Title card. The anonymous love letter that identified my wife as a cold case suspect. It began on an ordinary Tuesday, a day like any other in our Columbus home. I was John Miller, married to Sarah, the most gentle soul I've ever known. We met in college, building a life together. She became a pediatric nurse, adored by the children she cared for. I adored her too. That love was a sanctuary, a promise of normalcy, in a world that felt increasingly fragile. Her laughter was the sound that anchored me. But even then, a faint scent of ozone would sometimes cut through the air, a metallic whisper that made the hair on my arms prickle. I dismissed it as city smog. I didn't know it was a warning. I didn't know our sanctuary was already being watched. Our life was quiet, safe. We moved through our days with simple contentment. The air carried only the scent of home-cooked meals and fresh-cut grass. We believed our world was ordinary, and that was its greatest comfort. John remembered Sarah's quirks with unsettling clarity. Sudden noises made her flinch, a visceral reaction that spoke of deeper wound. She deflected questions about her West Virginia childhood with a flat, just boring, her voice carrying the weight of something buried. But it was her fixation on the mail, that daily ritual laced with a quiet, watchful dread that now felt like the first thread of a hidden tapestry. She'd always get to the mail first. I never thought much of it, until that Tuesday I came home early. The house held an unnatural stillness as I sorted through the day's delivery. My fingers brushed against an envelope that felt unnervingly cold and slightly damp. Then I caught the scent, ozone, and something faintly metallic, like old blood. He paused on a thick, cream-colored envelope. No stamp, no postmark, just his name, John, in elegant, looping cursive. The paper felt expensive, thick and cool to the touch. It had been hand-delivered, leaving a faint scent of ozone in the air. The handwriting was elegant, flowing, but it wasn't Sarah's. My heart did a sudden, treacherous leap. A foolish, hopeful thought bloomed. A secret admirer? The air in the room suddenly felt thin and sharp. After 8 long years, a flicker of vanity warmed me. Then a cold dread clenched my stomach. I tore the seal, the paper whispering as it parted. The scent of old ink and faint decay rose from within. "My dearest John," the letter began, its script a familiar, haunting curve. "I have watched the way you love her." The words weren't read. They were felt, a violation that settled into the room's very air, thick and suffocating. "The way you bring her coffee, just the way she likes it. The patience in your voice when she's anxious. You have a good heart. You deserve to know the heart you're holding is carved from stone." It felt like ice water in my veins. This wasn't a love letter to me. It wasn't a warning about the town. It was a warning about me, about us. She wasn't always Sarah. Once, she was someone else entirely. A girl who swam in the cold, dark waters of the Kanawha River. Her shadow still lingers beneath that old bridge, waiting in the silt. A girl loved Lucas Hill with a desperate, consuming fire. But Lucas's heart belonged to another. A truth that festered in her soul like a slow poison. On October 17th, 2006, under a swollen harvest moon, she trailed him to the river's edge. She did not push him into the cold, whispering water. She assured him the river was shallow enough to wade across toward the distant party lights. She knew the drop-off was sudden and unforgiving. She knew he couldn't swim a single stroke. John later said, "I stopped breathing." Lucas Hill. The name meant nothing to me. October 17th, 2006. That was the day Sarah would have turned 18. The air in the room felt thick and stale, carrying the faint, metallic scent of old paper and forgotten time. My fingers traced the date in the journal, the ink slightly raised, like a scar on the page. Somewhere in the quiet house, a floorboard groaned under a weight that wasn't there. I stumbled into my office, my hands trembling so violently I could barely find the keys. My frantic search led me to a local news article from 2006. The headline read, Teenager missing, presumed drowned in Kanawha River. Lucas Hill, 18 years old. The last confirmed sighting placed him arguing with a female friend near the old bridge before he vanished. The case went cold. No body recovered, no suspect ever named. John paced in his home office, the letter clutched in his trembling hand. It described the exact color of Lucas's shirt, a red plaid detail that was never released to the public. The description mentioned the necklace she wore that night, a silver crescent moon. I'd never seen Sarah with anything like it. Panic surged through me as I tore our bedroom apart, drawers scattering, clothes flying. From the deepest shadows at the back of Sarah's closet, my fingers brushed against cold, lacquered wood. I pulled out a small, locked jewelry box I'd never seen before, its metal clasp cool and unfamiliar to my touch. He pried it open. The camera focuses on a tarnished silver crescent moon necklace, its chain snapped. John's voice drops to a whisper. The world tilted. Every memory rewired itself. Her terror of water. Her breath caught when I startled her. Sometimes she'd gaze blankly, lost in some distant place. Was her mind at the riverbank? A metallic scent hung in the air. Her fingers were cold and damp to the touch. Only the faint drip of water and a low, distant whisper broke the stillness. John's voice cut through the tension. Confront her? Call the police? With what? An anonymous letter? And a necklace? I was married to a ghost. The words in the letter were a cold whisper, smelling faintly of dust and old paper. The air itself felt thick, pressing in with a damp, heavy touch. But the necklace, that was the real truth. Its metal was unnaturally cold, a tangible fragment of the impossible. That was my proof. Not for a detective's file, but for the hollow space in my chest where a living wife should have been. Desperate, I did the only thing I could think of. I started to dig. I called her boring hometown, lying that I was an old friend working on a genealogy project. Then, an elderly woman at the local library remembered. Her voice was a dry whisper, carrying the scent of dust and forgotten paper. She said, "Oh, you must mean Emily Shaw. Sweet girl, but troubled. Left town right after that poor hill boy died. Her family moved too." The neighbor's voice dropped to a whisper, the words hanging in the damp air. And just like that, she vanished. The realization crashed over John, a wave of icy, suffocating dread. Emily Shaw, he whispered, the name tasting of ash and memory. Not Sarah, Emily. That evening, in the kitchen, the truth settled like dust. The rhythmic thump of the knife on the cutting board filled the kitchen, a mundane sound masking the tension. John leaned in the doorway, his silhouette framed by the hall light, a stark cream envelope held loosely in his hand. His voice, a low murmur that cut through the domestic noise, asked, "Sarah? Who's Emily?" The knife slipped from nerveless fingers, its metallic clatter against the tile floor a jarring punctuation to the question. Sarah didn't turn around. The quiet felt oppressive, heavier than any scream. Her voice came out flat and hollow. "Where did you hear that name?" John's breath caught in his throat. "Someone left me a letter." The air grew thick with dread as he added, "A very detailed letter, about a boy named Lucas, about the river." Sarah slowly turned, her usually warm face now a pale, cold mask he didn't recognize. Her voice was flat, stripped of all warmth. "Give it to me," John's voice cracked. "Is it true?" A bitter, hollow laugh escaped her. "You think you know what truth is? You live in this perfect little bubble, John. You have no concept of true entrapment. To be a girl in a town with no exit. To love someone with a desperation that feels like suffocation. And to have him laugh in your face. So you killed him? I didn't push him. He was drunk, showing off, boasting he could swim it. I knew he couldn't. I stood there, the air thick with the smell of wet wood and river rock. My protest died in my throat, a sticky, useless lump. I didn't stop him. I released him, watching as he dissolved into the oppressive darkness. A heavy silence settled, thick with the scent of ozone and decay. Then, a strange numbness crept through my limbs as I felt myself unravel. I vanished next, the old self shed like a skin, reborn into something else entirely. The words hung in the air like a promise carved from bone. John's world, meticulously built on a foundation of shared trust, crumbled to reveal the rot beneath. Her terrifying calm was a void, swallowing his rage and leaving only the cold, metallic taste of dread. The final question wasn't a challenge, but a quiet, inevitable reckoning. Call the police? Tell them your gentle, loving wife is actually the monster from that unsigned letter? You have no evidence, just the frantic words of a coward who wouldn't even leave a name. The air in the room grew thick, tasting of ozone and old paper. Her footstep landed with a soft, final sound on the wooden floor. Primal dread took hold, freezing the protest in his throat. John retreats, the space between them now a yawning, impossible gulf. In the present, a weary John addresses the camera, the weight of years etched on his face. "I never called the police that night," he confesses, his voice a low rasp. "What could I say? Karen?" he asks, the memory thick in the air. "We slept in separate rooms. The next morning, she was gone. So was the letter. She left a note. It said, 'I'm sorry I wasn't the woman you loved. She never really existed. The police are now investigating.' I gave them everything. The story, the necklace, the name Emily Shaw. They're reopening Lucas Hill's case. But they tell me, without a body, Without a witness, it's complicated. A heavy silence hangs in the air, thick with the scent of damp wool and old paper. But that's not what keeps me up at night. It's not the fear that I was married to a killer. That question haunts me relentlessly. Who sent the letter? For 17 years, someone knew Emily's secret, Sarah's secret, and watched silently. They witnessed every brick we laid, every moment of the life we built together. The air carries the faint scent of damp paper and something metallic, like old coins. The waiting was deliberate, measured, calculated, and then, with careful precision, they handed me the truth on heavy, expensive stationery. Was this justice being served, or was it revenge? Cold and exacting. A relative of Lucas's, perhaps? Someone from that cursed town who had finally tracked her down? The air grew heavy with the scent of old paper and dust, as if the past itself had entered the room. His breath hitched, the words catching in his throat like a physical obstruction. And the most terrifying part? If they knew about her, what did they know about me? What do they know about you? We all have boxes in the back of our closets. We all have names we don't say anymore. The question is, who else is watching, waiting for the right moment to mail you your past, the final shot? That same envelope, now empty, rests on a sterile, metallic table. John's whisper cuts through the heavy air, his voice a dry rasp. Who's writing your letter? The screen plunges into absolute black, and the end credits begin to roll.
If the veil stirred, subscribe and meet the next encounter.